It started like any other night, quiet, uneventful. But I should have known, stepping through the door would change everything forever. I was barreling down Route 66 in my old truck, wore out from a long day hauling scrap metal, just itching to get home and flop on my couch with a cold one, when I spotted this shady truck stop and figured I'd grab a burger and some gas. That beat-up Ford of mine, a 98 F-150 with more rust than paint, rattled like a tin can full of screws every time I hit a pothole, and let me tell ya, that road's got more holes than a block of Swiss cheese these days. The sun had sunk below the horizon an hour back, leaving the sky this deep purple smear, like a bruise that wouldn't heal. My eyes were burning, something fierce from staring at the faded yellow lines all day, 10 hours straight, loading and unloading junk at a yard 2 counties west. My back was screaming, my hands stunk of rust and oil, and my stomach was growling louder than the engine, which was sputtering on fumes. Home was 50 miles east, just a leaky single-wide trailer with a TV that only got 3 channels, but it was mine, and it was Callan. Still, I needed fuel and food, so when that flickering neon sign popped up ahead, Big Rig Burger Barn, I eased off the gas and swung into the lot. The gravel crunched under my tires, kicking up a cloud of dust that danced in the headlights like tiny spirits. The place looked like it had been forgotten since Reagan was president. Squat cinderblock building painted a sickly yellow that might have been cheery once but now just looked sad. That neon sign buzzed and flickered, the B in burger half dead, so it read Urger Barn if you squinted right. A couple semis loomed in the lot, their chrome catching the weak glow of a street lamp that blinked like it was on its last breath. I pulled up next to one, killed the engine, and sat there a minute listening to the truck tick and pop as it cooled. It was quiet out there, except for that lamp's hum and the faint whine of wind cutting through the desert scrub. Something felt off already, like the air was holding its breath, but I chalked it up to being dead tired and climbed out, boots hitting the ground with a thud. I stretched, feeling my spine crack like firewood, and grabbed my ball cap off the passenger seat, stained with sweat and grease from too many days like this, and tugged it low over my eyes. I locked the truck, habit, even though nobody'd steal that heap, and shuffled toward the door, gravel crunching underfoot. The closer I got, the worse it looked, windows smudged with years of dirt, a crooked open 24/7 sign taped up, and a dented trash can spilling over with burger wrappers and cigarette butts. I pushed the door open, bells jingling like some cheap decoration, and stepped inside. The smell hit me like a punch, burnt coffee, fryer grease, and something sour I couldn't name, all mixed into a thick haze. My boots scuffed across cracked linoleum, the kind with a fake tile pattern worn down to gray in spots. The walls were dingy beige, streaked with grease and dotted with fly specks, like nobody'd touched them with a rag since the place opened. Booze lined one side, vinyl seats split open with yellow foam poking out, and a counter ran along the other, stools wobbling on uneven legs. A menu board hung crooked above it, missing letters so cheeseburger was just chessburger. Some old country tune, Hank Williams, I think, crackled through a busted speaker bolted to the ceiling, cutting in and out like a bad signal. The whole joint felt like it was barely hanging on, ready to fall apart if you breathed on it too hard. I plopped down on a stool, the vinyl creaking under me, and rubbed my hands over my face. Man, I was beat, the kind of tired that sinks into your bones and fuzzes your brain. A waitress shuffled over, Darlene, her name Ag said, maybe 50, with brassy blonde hair and a voice like she smoked 2 packs a day. What'll it be, hon? She rasped, pen hovering over a pad. Burger, fries, Coke, whatever's fast, I mumbled, glancing at the menu like it might fall. She nodded, hollered the order back, and I figured 20 minutes, eat, gas up, and I'd be back on the road to my trailer. But sitting there, that off feeling crept in stronger, like this wasn't just a pit stop, like something was brewing in this dump, waiting to spill over. I was sitting at the counter, halfway through my burger with grease dripping down my chin, when the door flew open and this guy in a cowboy hat stormed in like he owned the whole dang place. Darlene didn't even blink, just kept wiping the counter with that rag, but me and the trucker 2 stools down, some guy in flannel with a coffee cup, turned to look. This fellow was tall and lanky, wearing a beat-up Stetson tilted crooked on his head, and his boots clacked loud on the cracked linoleum, echoing over the busted speaker's Hank Williams static. His plaid shirt was faded, tucked into jeans so tight they might have been painted on, and he had this wild look in his eyes, like he'd seen a ghost or something crazier. Folks, he hollered, voice booming, through the greasy air, y'all need to hear what's happening out back right now. I took another bite, figuring he was drunk, high, or just plain nuts, maybe all 3, and kept chewing, hoping he'd shut up quick. He marched right up to the counter, leaning in close like he was about to spill the secret of the century. I seen it with my own eyes, he said, them wild eyes dartin' around a dang UFO right behind this crummy joint. Lights flashing, big as a barn. The trucker snorted into his coffee, mutterin' something about too much whiskey, but the two guys in the back booth, denim jackets, low voices, perked up, heads tiltin' his way like they might actually buy it. I chewed slower, watchin' him wave his arms like some preacher on a tear. It landed, I swear it, shiny disc, hummin' like a million bees, he went on, voice risin'. Darlene rolled her eyes, tossin' her rag down with a slap. Take it outside, Earl, she rasped, soundin' like she'd heard the song before, but he didn't even flinch, just spun around to face us all, hat wobblin' on his head. Listen up, I ain't crazy, he shouted. I was out there smokin' a cigarette, mindin' my own business when it dropped out of the sky, a bam, kicked up dust and everything. He jammed his hat back straight, pointin' out the grimy window with a shaky finger. It's still sittin' there, pretty as you please. You'll gotta come see. The old man in the corner, pickin' at his eggs with a tremblin' fork, glanced up but stayed quiet. I wiped my mouth with a napkin, thinkin' this Earl guy was full of it. UFOs at a truck stop? Gimme a break. I'd run into plenty of weirdos on the road, guys claimin' they saw Bigfoot or Elvis, but this one was top-tier loony. Still, he kept ramblin', voice gettin' louder, face tinnin' red as a tomato. It's got lights, green ones, red ones, blinkin' like Christmas, he said, passin' now, boots stompin' the floor. And noises, clicks and whirs like machines talkin' to each other. The trucker chuckled, shakin' his head, but I caught the booth guys whisperin', glancin' out the window like they might bite. Earl kept goin', spinnin' in a circle. I ain't making this up, something's out there, and it sure as hell ain't human. Darlene snapped, Earl, shut your trap or get out, but he just laughed, high and sharp, like he'd lost the plot. I took a swig of my Coke, the cold fizz hittin' my throat, tryin' to tune him out. 50 miles to my trailer, that's all I cared about, not this clown's sci-fi nonsense. But he wouldn't let up. I seen him before, years ago near Roswell, he said, same thing, lights, hummin', the works. They're watchin' us, I tell ya. The trucker muttered, Roswell, sure, buddy, and I smirked. Earl was a nut, spinnin' yarns for kicks. Still, somethin' in his voice shaky, too real stuck in my craw. I peeked out the window, expectin' nothin' but dark, and that's all I saw. Earl ranted on, they're here, mark my words, and I figured he'd been at this all night, yellin' at anyone dumb enough to listen. Crazy or not, he was stirrin' up the place, and it was startin' to get under my skin whether I liked it or not. I shook my head at Earl, figurin' he was just some loudmouth with too much liquor in his veins, and went back to my burger, sinkin' my teeth into it as grease slid down my fingers. The bun was soggy, but it hit the spot, and I mopped up the mess with a fry, limp and cold, but good enough. That cowboy hat fool was still goin' off about his UFO, passin' the linoleum like a caged coon, voice bouncin' over the busted speakers, cracklin' Hank Williams' tune. Lights hummin' the whole dang show, he kept yellin', wavin' his arms like he was flaggin' down a train. I told myself he was full of bull, seen plenty of guys like him on the road, spinnin' tall tales to feel important. Darlene leaned on the counter, arms crossed tight, starin' at him like she'd rather chuck him out the window than listen to another word. The trucker, 2 stools down, flannel shirt, coffee cup glued to his hand, gave me a look and grunted, guys off his rocker. His voice was low, rough like gravel, and I nodded, swallowin' a chunk of burger. Yeah, Roswell rerun, I said, keepin' it short and simple. We both smirked, like we'd pegged Earl for what he was, just another road nut with a wild story. I grabbed my Coke, took a long swig, lettin' the fizz burn my throat, hopin' it'd drown out his noise. 50 miles to my trailer, that's all I needed to think about, not some Yahoo's alien garbage. The old man in the corner, still pickin' at his eggs with that shaky fork, didn't even look up, like he was deaf to the whole circus. But then I clocked the booth guys, they weren't loggin' it off no more. One leaned forward, elbows diggin' into the table, whisperin' to his buddy, both of 'em sneakin' peeks out the window now and then. Earl's rant musta hooked 'em, it's out there, waitin', he hollered, pointin' again like it'd make us see ghosts. I rolled my eyes, chompin' a fry, ain't no way a UFO parked behind this dump. Probably just a busted rig or some kids with fireworks, I figured. Darlene finally lost it, barkin', Earl, sit down or get the hell out. He waved her off, Logan, that sharp, crazy laugh, and kept ramblin'. Y'all see, just you wait, he said, like he had a crystal ball stashed under that hat. I polished off my burger, wipin' my hands on a napkin, and leaned back on the stool, feelin' it creak under me. The place was gettin' heavy, Earl's voice mixin' with the speaker's static, hangin' in the air like smoke. The trucker muttered, oughta lock him up somewhere, and I grunted back, yeah, with a muzzle. Guy was a clown, stirring up nonsense for no good reason. But then the booth guys stood up, slow and deliberate, grabbing their denim jackets off the seat. "Gonna take a look," one said, voice quiet but steady, like he meant it. The other nodded, zipping up, and they headed for the door, bells jingling as they stepped into the night. I frowned, watching 'em go. Were they for real? What kind of suckers buy that crap? Darlene sighed, shaking her head, and sloshed more coffee into the trucker's cup. "Every dang week with that idiot," she rasped, like Earl was a regular pain in her rear. I smirked again, figuring he was the local kook always spouting garbage, but something nagged at me. Why those guys bite? I glanced out the window, seeing nothing but black beyond the glass, and shrugged it off. Roads full of dopes, I thought, and I ain't joining the club. I pushed my plate away, ready to slap some cash down and hit the road. This stop was wearing thin, and Earl's noise was giving me a headache I didn't need. 50 miles, couch, beer, that's my plan, and no cowboy hat clown was gonna derail it, or so I told myself. I was fishing a couple crumpled bucks out of my wallet to toss on the counter for Darlene when a flash lit up the window, bright as a dang spotlight, splashing across the greasy walls like a paint bomb. I froze, cash in hand, and the trucker next to me, flannel guy with the coffee, choked on his sip, cuffing up a storm. "What the hell?" he sputtered, wiping his mouth, but before I could answer, another flash hit, green this time, streaking across the glass like a neon sign gone haywire. Earl spun around, pointing like a lunatic. "Told y'all. It's them," he hollered, voice cracking with some kinda twisted glee. Darlene dropped her rag, staring out with wide eyes, and even the old man with the eggs looked up, fork-hanging in midair like he'd forgot what it was for. I squinted hard, trying to see through the window's grime, but all I got was dark. Then bam, a red glow pulsed slow, like a heartbeat you could see. The busted speaker popped loud, cutting Hank Williams off mid-twang, and a low hum kicked in, vibrating the stools under us. "That ain't no truck," the trucker muttered, pushing his cup away like it had burned him. I shoved my wallet back in my pocket, heart thumping faster than I'd admit. "Okay, maybe a lot faster." Earl laughed, bouncing on his boots. "See? Lights, just like I said, green, red, the works," he crowed like he'd won the lottery. Outside, the flashes kept rolling, green, red, then a blue one, flickering quick like a strobe. The booth guys must have seen it too, 'cause a yell came from the lot, muffled through the walls, sounded like, "Holy crap," or close enough. I stood up, legs feeling wobbly, and shuffled to the window, wiping a smudge with my sleeve to get a better look. Couldn't see much, just glows bouncing off my truck and the semis, painting the gravel in weird colors like some tripped-out art show. "Probably just some jackass with flares," I said, mostly to calm myself, but my voice came out thin, like I didn't believe it. The trucker got up too, peeking over my shoulder, breathing heavy. "Ain't buying that," he grunted, and Darlene crossed her arms. "Materin, better not be no mess out there." Earl bolted for the door, bells clanging as he ran outside, yelling, "Come on, y'all, see for yourselves." That hum got louder, buzzing in my teeth like a dentist drill, and I caught a glimpse, something big, maybe, past the lot's edge, glowing in the dark. I shook my head, telling myself it was nothing, power surge, prank, anything but Earl's UFO bull. But my gut was knotting up and I couldn't peel my eyes off the window. The trucker leaned closer, his coffee breath hot on my neck. "That ain't normal, man," he said, and I hated how right he sounded even if I wouldn't say it out loud. The lights pulsed again, picking up speed, green, red, blue, like they were talking in code, and I heard faint clicks and words mix in with the hum. Earl's words echoed in my head, Christmas lights, machines chattering, and I cursed under my breath, mad I was even thinking it. No way this was real, I told myself, but my feet stayed planted, staring at the glow. Darlene barked, "Somebody call the dang cops," but nobody budged. Truck stop turned into a deer in headlights show. The old man whispered something sounded like a prayer, and I wondered if I shoulda just kept driving past this dump, 50 miles beyond Gate. That hum kept growling, lights dancing, and for the first time I wasn't so sure Earl was just a nut with a big mouth. I was still stuck at that window watching them freaky lights, green, red, blue, pulse like a dang rave, when the trucker next to me, the flannel guy with the coffee breath, slammed his cup down and grabbed his cap off the counter. "Screw this sitting around, I'm going out there," he growled, his name stitched on his shirt, Ron, and he gave me a quick nod like I was part of the plan. I laughed, trying to keep it loose. "All right, but if it's aliens, I'm hauling ass out of here," I said, half joking, even though my stomach was doing flips. Earl was already outside, hollering like a banshee for us to follow, his cowboy hat bobbing in the dark, and the booth guys' voices echoed back, yelling it was weird as hell. Darlene barked from behind the counter, "Y'all are a bunch of dang idiots," but Ron was moving, boots stomping, toward the door, and my dumb legs tagged along, leaving my Coke fizzing on the counter like a lost cause. The bells clanged loud as we stepped out, and the cold desert air hit me hard, cutting through my jacket like a knife. That hum was thicker now, buzzing deep in my chest, and them lights danced across the lot, splashing over my truck and the semis like some tripped-out paint job. Earl waved us over, standing by a rusty dumpster at the lot's edge, pointing out past it into the scrub. "It's back there, come on, y'all," he shouted, jogging ahead like a kid chasing a firefly. Ron pulled a cigarette from his pocket, lit it with a flick of his lighter, and puffed smoke into the night, muttering, "This better be worth freezing my ass off for." I zipped my jacket up tight, wishing I'd stayed inside where it was warm and smelled like grease instead of diving into whatever this mess was tinning into. We crunched over the gravel, me and Ron side by side, when the booth guys caught up, two big fellas in denim jackets, one clutching a flashlight that flickered like it was on its last legs. "Saw it move," the first one said, voice low and dead serious, keeping his eyes on the shadows ahead. The other nodded, rubbing his hands together against the chill. "Yeah, like it's alive or something," he added, and I rolled my eyes, thinking they'd swallowed Earl's line hole. We kept walking, the hum getting sharper, almost a whine now, like a saw chewing through metal. Past the dumpster, the lot faded into dirt and scraggly bushes, and them lights pulsed from something big, round, maybe sitting half-hid in the dark. Earl stopped short, breathing fast, and pointed with a shaky hand. "Right there, y'all see it?" he hissed, his hat dang near falling off in his excitement. I squinted into the dark, heart pounding louder than I'd ever let on, trying to figure it out. Could be a broke-down rig, I told myself, or some junk catching, the light funny, had to be something normal. Ron blew a cloud of smoke, squinting too, and said, "Ain't no truck making that kind of racket, I'll tell you that much." The flashlight guy swept his beam over the ground, and it caught a curve of metal, smooth and shiny, not rusted or banged up like my old Ford. "What in the hell is that?" I muttered, talking a step closer without even thinking. The hum shifted, throwing in little clicks and pops, and a gust kicked up out of nowhere, carrying a smell like burnt wire or hot steel. Earl grinned, looking half crazy under that hat. "Told you it's a dang UFO, didn't I?" he said, voice shaken with some kinda twisted pride. I snorted, trying to laugh it off like it was nothing, but the sound stuck in my throat. Something about this was off, way off, and no amount of joking was gonna shake that feeling loose. We were standing there in the dark, me, Ron, and them booth guys, all staring at that shiny thing half hid in the scrub, when the hum jumped loud, like a jet engine roaring to life right in my ears, and the ground shook hard under my boots, rattling my knees like I was caught in a quake. Ron dropped his cigarette, the lid end bouncing off his flannel as he cursed loud, "What the hell, what's that?" And the flashlight guy stumbled back, his beam swinging wild across the bushes, lighting up dirt and shadows in crazy flashes. "Holy hell, y'all!" Earl yelled, scrambling away so fast his cowboy hat flew off, tumbling into the scrub like a spooked tumbleweed. Them lights, green, red, blue, spun out of control, blinding me something fierce, and a shape loomed up slow from the ground, round and massive, lifting off the dirt with a groan, kicking up a dust storm that stung my eyes and clogged my throat with grit. I froze where I stood, mouth dry as a bone, thinking, this ain't happening, no dang way this is real. The booth guys lost their cool, one took off running back toward the lot, boots pounding gravel like he'd seen the devil, while the other dropped his flashlight, letting it roll in the dirt, leaving us half-blind in the chaos. Ron grabbed my arm hard, yelling, "Move your ass, man, now," but my legs wouldn't budge, stuck like they'd been poured in concrete. That thing's smooth metal, bigger than any barn I'd ever seen, hovered now, 10 feet off the ground, humming, so deep and fierce my teeth buzzed like I'd bit a live wire. A hatch or something slid open on its side, slow and quiet, and white light poured out, bright as a welder's torch, burning my eyes till they watered. I swear I saw shapes in there, tall, thin, moving smooth like shadows on a wall, and my brain tripped over itself. Earl was right. I croaked out, voice lost in the roar, barely believing I'd said it, like I'd gone as nuts as him. Wind whipped up out of nowhere, howling, fierce, smelling like hot wire and something sharp, ozone maybe, like after a lightning strike, and it ripped my cap clean off my head, sending it spinning into the dark like a lost kite. The thing tilted in the air, them lights flashing faster, green, red, blue, green, red, blue, like a dang signal gone wild, and a beam shot down, hot, white, blinding, nailing the spot where Earl'd been standing just seconds ago. He was on his ass now, crawling through the dirt, screaming, they're here, I told y'all," like a man possessed. I blinked hard, eyes streamin' tears and them shapes in the light where they tinnin' toward us, watchin' us. Ron yanked me back with both hands, hard enough my shoulder popped, and we tripped over a bush, hittin' the ground with a thud that knocked the breath out of me. That beam swung our way, close enough I felt heat on my face, and I scrambled back on my hands, heart poundin', so loud I thought it'd bust right through my ribs. It lifted higher, humtinnin', to a high-pitched whine that stabbed my ears like needles, and then bam, it shot straight up into the sky, gone in a blink, leavin' nothin' but a swirl of dust and a black, empty night. My ears rang like church bells on Sunday, and I lay there in the dirt, gaspin' for air, chest heaven, like I'd run a marathon. Ron coughed hard, sittin' up slow, wipin' dust off his flannel with shaky hands. What in the hell was that thing? He rasped, voice crackin', like he'd aged 10 years. Earl whimpered nearby, curled up by the dumpster, "Materin, told ya," over and over, like it was all he could hang onto. I stared up at the sky clear now, not a dang thing left, and tried to wrap my head around it. Did I just see that? My hands shook bad, cold sweat soaking my shirt through, and all I could think was my burger sitting back there, cold and lonely, while my whole night, hell, maybe my whole life, just got flipped upside down. I was still sprawled in the dirt, breathing heavy and staring at that empty sky when Ron hauled himself up, dusting off his flannel with a cough that sounded like he'd swallowed half the desert. "We gotta get out of here," he said, voice rough and low, glancing around like something might drop back down any second. Earl was still by the dumpster, curled up and muttering, told ya, like a broke record, his hat long gone in the scrub. My hands were shaking bad, cold sweat sticking, my shirt to my back, and my head was spinning. Did I just see a dang UFO, or was I losing it? I pushed up slow, legs wobbly as hell, and spat grit out of my mouth, trying to shake the buzz still ringing in my ears. 50 miles to my trailer, that's all I needed, just get home and forget this night ever happened. Ron clapped my shoulder, nodding toward the lot. "Come on, man, let's roll," he said, already trudging back, his boots crunching gravel. I stumbled after him, glancing back at Earl. He wasn't moving, just rocking there like a kid who'd seen a ghost. The booth guys were gone, probably halfway to their rigs by now, and them lights, green, red, blue, were just a memory burning in my skull. We hit the lot, and my truck sat there, looking small and beat up under the flickering street lamp like nothing had changed. But everything had. I fumbled my keys out of my pocket, hands still trembling, and climbed in, slamming the door harder than I meant to. Ron waved, heading for his semi, and hollered, "Drive safe, huh?" I nodded, but safe felt a million miles away. The engine sputtered to life, rattling, like always, and I peeled out of the lot, gravel spitting under my tires as I swung back onto Route 66. The truck stop faded in my rear view, neon sign buzzing, windows glowing, and I floored it, wind whistling through the cracked window, trying to outrun whatever the hell I'd just seen. My heart was still thumping, loud, chest tight like a drum, and every shadow on the road made me flinch. Every star up there looked like it might blink funny and come crashing down. Was it a UFO? Earl's crazy ass swore it, and them shapes in that light, tall, thin, moving, kept flashing in my mind. But maybe it was something else, military test, weird weather, hell, even a dang prank. I didn't know, and that not knowing was eating me alive. The miles ticked by, dark stretching out ahead, and I kept replaying it, the hum, the beam, the way that thing shot up and vanished. My burger was back there, cold on the counter, and I almost laughed, almost thinking how I'd stopped for a quick bite and got this instead. 50 miles turned to 40, then 30, and the road stayed empty, just me and the hum of my old Ford, rattling along like nothing happened. But my hands gripped the wheel tight, knuckles white, and I kept checking the sky, half expecting them lights to flare up again. What did I tell folks? Hey, saw a UFO at a truck stop? They'd laugh me out of the room or lock me up with Earl. Maybe I'd keep it quiet, bury it deep, let it fade like a bad dream. I hit my trailer just past midnight, pulling into the dirt patch I call a driveway, and killed the engine sitting there in the dark. The single wide loomed ahead, leaky roof, busted screen door, but it was home and I needed that bad. I climbed out, legs stiff, and trudged inside, flipping on the light. The place smelled like stale beer and dust, same as always, and I grabbed a can from the fridge, popping it open with a hiss. Sank onto the couch, staring at the TV, static on all 3 channels, and took a long swig, cold fizz hitting my throat. That hum still echoed in my head, them lights danced behind my eyes, and I wondered if I'd ever sleep right again. Was it real? Hell if I knew, but one thing's for sure, that truck stop ain't ever seeing me again, not for all the burgers in the world.